Aldermen's meeting into session. This is the May 19th, 2020 meeting, our regular meeting. This meeting is being held electronically through Zoom. Governor Lee's executive order number 34 is allowing us to do this. Ms. Brickles will read this, and she will also call the roll.
Sneed.
Sneed's here.
Harris.
Present.
Hubbard.
Hubbard here.
Gregg.
Here.
Arnold.
Here.
Schneider. Trotter.
Here.
The video conference format for the City of Springfield Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for tonight will be as follows. In an effort to ensure an orderly meeting that is capable of functioning properly and amendable to public viewing, all participants except for the mayor, the board, and the city clerk will be muted. Video will be disabled for department heads, and they will remain muted for the duration of the meeting unless called upon to participate in the meeting. If called upon, a department head will initiate their video feed and be unmuted. Board members wishing to be recognized to speak, to make a motion, second, or engage in discussion or debate are asked to raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the mayor. Once you have been recognized by the mayor, please proceed with your discussion. Please allow the current speaker to finish their discussion before speaking. And for voting, all board members will be called upon to cast their vote on the agenda item.
Okay, thank you so much. 1.2, the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of the board and mayor and aldermen held on April 21st, 2020. Are there any corrections?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Harris and Mr. Hubbard. Now we will call the roll.
Mr. Harris? We're calling the roll for the minutes, to approve the minutes.
Who did you call?
You, Mr. Harris.
A lot of echo. I'm not hearing what you're saying. Yes.
Schneider. Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Yes.
Sneed.
Yes.
Gregg.
Yes.
Arnold.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 1.3, our public hearing. Our first public hearing is Ordinance 20-05, an ordinance rezoning a portion of one parcel located in the 9th Civil District on Highway 41 South from Commercial General District to Commercial Service District. And I understand that we have not had anyone contact us that wanted to speak on this issue. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this issue? If not, the public hearing is closed. We do have some people? Okay, I was told there was no one, so there's somebody. Let me back up, I'm so sorry. This is live, so. Candace, do we have someone that would like to speak? If you would like to speak for our public hearing, please state your name and you have 2 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
Do I have permission to speak?
Yes, please state your name. You have 2.
My name is Chad Lacey. I'm a Clover Engineering. I just wanted you to know I'm representing the project if anyone does have any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the public hearing? Do we have anyone else?
Does Mr. Combs want to speak?
Candace, do we have anybody else that would like to speak? I'm not seeing anyone on the video. Don't see anyone that's not our department heads on the video.
Candace is typing.
I'm sorry. Just 1 second.
Harvey Combs wants to speak.
Mr. Combs, I understand you would like to speak. You have 2 minutes. Mr. Combs, are you? I understand you would like to speak. Mr. Combs, are you out there? Candace, do we have anyone else that would like to speak?
Harvey Combs says we're all good. He can't get the video.
Does he want to speak? Okay.
Audio, he can talk.
Okay. If there's no one that would like to speak for the public hearing is closed. We'll move on to 2.1. Discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 20-05 on a second reading. Ordinance rezoning a portion of one parcel located in the 9th Civil District on Highway 41 South from Commercial General District to Commercial Service District. Do I have a first?
So moved.
Yes. That was made by Alderman Hubbard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Gregg.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Gregg.
Alderman Gregg? I'm not hearing you. Why can't I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you now. Thank you, sir. We have a second by Alderman Gregg. We're open for discussion now.
Questions, Mayor?
Mr. Harris?
Are the owners of the property present in this meeting tonight, or?
The owner
I
is
think Mr.
Mr.
Lacy
Combs.
said he might be answering questions, or?
Chad Lacy is the representative and he is present, and Mr. Combs is the one that said he had, I think, audio but no video.
Okay. I'll make the first statement that I don't know if we'll be meeting in person in June or not, but I was not totally in favor of the way this public hearing is this evening, just for this very reason. That some
Yes,
people are not able to get onto this. I know you haven't received any phone calls, but our normal procedures for people to come into City Hall, and under our present condition, we're not able to do that. I don't know if we should look at tabling this and redoing the public hearing when we meet in person. That may not be the proper way to do it. I do have some questions concerning the property. If Mr. Lacy can answer, can it be explained to this body what type of venue is being proposed for this property?
Mr. Lacy? Mr. Lacy, are you on?
I am sorry for the delay. It takes a second to get unmuted and video back. So
No,
yes,
that's good. You're here.
I can answer that question for you. So what they are proposing is it would be basically to hold a capacity of around 1,100 people is what they're wanting to do for the main event venue portion. And this would be anything that would be like a music entertainment venue style, or even you could get into theatrical. Basically anybody that wanted to rent out this venue for entertaining purposes. They've even thrown out the weddings as well. So, and then there will be actually 4 tenant spaces on each, a couple on each end of the building. That will be around 8,000 square feet total, divided 4 ways. There would also be basically a proposed around a 4,700 square foot restaurant space as well. So does that answer your question on the kinds of events? Or
Yes, on that part of it. My next question would be concerning, you stated they're wanting to have a venue for 1,100 people possibly at one time. Of course, if you were to divide that in 2, that's 550 cars approximately. Or even if you go down to a third, you're going to have 350 to 400 cars. What will the parking be there?
yes, sir. Thank you for the question. So I've actually been in contact with Miss Gina Head over there, and we came to the conclusion that we would use a 1-to-4 ratio for the event venue section of this. So then that would be 1,100 divided by 4, which would give us about 275 for that particular event venue. And that's not counting the extra, restaurant space, the small eateries, things like that, that they're wanting to pull tenants in for as well. So we are aware that it would be, according to the conversations I've had with the city, Ms. Gina Head, that we would require a 1-to-4 ratio parking on that. It'd be the same thing as group assembly was the best fit for it. Same thing we use for churches and such.
Okay, the calls and questions that I've had, and I'll direct the same question to you that's been asked to me. Is this being proposed to be a bar or nightclub type venue?
It is not. It's just strictly an event venue. So whoever the tenant wants, any kind of entertainment. So basically a music venue is what I'm getting mostly out of it. So it will be like your people just coming in, putting on concerts. So of various artists, whichever ones it could be. It's actually a very nice proposal that they're, from what I'm seeing, it's going to be more of an upscale deal. So no, not a nightclub, if that answers your questions. It is going to be, the tenant would have to lease this place out. They would come in, bring in equipment, set up bands of various artists. Like I said, you could do theatrical, you could have plays. They're open to leasing this out for graduation spaces, for schools. Whoever wants to lease out the space to utilize it. So weddings, nothing's been thrown out.
Well, certainly this is a congested type area already. It's been attempted to have a red light put at Academy Drive and Memorial. Hopefully we can get Senator Roberts and Representative Kumar on board to maybe try to get a red light in that area. South Haven being across the street when school's in session, they already have a hard time getting out from Academy Drive onto Memorial. When church is in session and letting out with 1,800 people attending there, that's a problem also. And then if we have an added venue taking place when churches are letting out at the same time, that adds to it. Hopefully we can get them on board to see about getting a red light in that area. That's all of my questions.
Thank you. Next questions.
Can you park 200 to 300 cars there?
Well, we're in the preliminary stages, obviously, here, so we don't have construction plans at this stage, but that is the idea. So he bought the whole property, or he actually has 4 tracks there. So the existing building, the building that they're actually doing the COVID-19 testing in at the current time, I'm assuming that one would be demoed and there would be parking in that area. So yeah, that's the goal, is basically the parking will dictate the capacity that they would be able to get in.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Next question.
Yes, I want to comment. I'm glad that he clarified it, that he's going to have upscale and above board type of entertainment, because I was worried about that. So I'm pleased with what he said that we'll have there.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
Diane.
Yes, sir. Mr. Steed, go right ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Lacy. And I have a question for Mr. Lacy.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Lacy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
The you're with the civil engineering firm Clover Engineering, correct?
That's correct.
You've had this already approved through the planning commission, is that right?
That's correct.
Why were you not able to, since you are in the business of doing this, drawing the plans and letting the planning commission see exactly what you're wanting to do? And then, because it's been like months, it's hard to see how an engineering firm who in the business of doing this wouldn't have preliminary engineering plans for parking spaces that would meet city codes. And from the parking that you just described from your conversation, it would require, from my familiar, I'm familiar with the property, it sounds like it would require some variance to get that many cars there. So I guess it's a kind of a layered question. I'll stop and let you comment to that.
I don't know what kind of variance we would be needing. So I have been talking closely with Ms. Gina Head, on this issue. So we're not trying to withhold anything. Basically, what we have to do is wait on the architect to get, that he's been working on his preliminary drawings for the building footprint. I don't want to go in there and put a bunch of parking in, tell a client they can do something that they can't do without knowing what the footprint is. So I actually just got that footprint in today, and from the architect. So we're actually just started on a layout for parking, etc. today. But it has always been known that there was going to be an event venue. We just didn't know how capacities change. You start a plan, you try to get them the most capacity they can get to make the money. That's what you have to do. So that's what the approach we've been after, and I think I've been very transparent with the city and I've answered all questions from Mr. David Brewer and Gina Head.
Well, Mr. Brewer at last meeting indicated he didn't know what the plans were out there, just wanted to rezone it to entertainment. So I'm not sure exactly what that's about, unless you communicated with him after we had our last meeting. I have had some people call me about the project, and it was they had some concerns about it being, the investments and things that have been put in place across the street. And of course, you talked about a music venue. I guess we're all aware there's a railroad track that's right behind the building that, has at best 35 trains a day go by there. I'm curious to see, how you have an entertainment venue with trains going by a place that close. One other question for you, Mr. Lacy, is the car shop going to remain? Is that part of this total project, or is that closed?
That's to be, we're proposing to subdivide that property, but there would be some sort of shared agreement to be able to use the parking for the events.
Okay,
The
so
event venues aren't going to be all the time. They're not.
okay,
They may not be every weekend. They probably would be in a perfect scenario, but they're not going to be utilized every day. So that will be all you would need for everyday use is going to be the parking for the eateries and the tenants that are there throughout the week. So you're only going to need all that parking for the weekend or whenever the events are scheduled.
Mayor, I have no further questions for Mr. Lacy.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
One follow-up.
Yes, sir.
To your statement you made, Chad, earlier about 1,100 people venue, is that number including just if something special is taking place, or is that total people for all retail and everything that's happening at one time?
That is just the capacity for the event venue portion.
So
the event venue portion would make up 25,000 square feet of the facility. Approximately, you're going to have about 4,700 square feet of a nice restaurant space, and you're going to have about 8,000 square feet split 4 ways into tenant space for other little small eateries, coffee shop that kind of vibe.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Other questions?
Mayor, I have a question.
Is that you, Miss Arnold?
It is. It is. Hi,
I'm
Miss.
sorry, I'm having audio problems.
Okay, can everyone else hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I hear you.
You can, Clay?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, great. Mr. Lacy, quick question for you. That entertainment venue, is that an indoor entertainment venue or is it an amphitheater-like venue?
it's most definitely indoor. It would be the main, it'd be like the epicenter when you walk in. That's going to be the large space of the building. And then the tenants would occupy the little eatery places and maybe a pub / coffee shop, kind of upscale kind of things is what the client's looking at here would occupy each end.
Got it. Okay, so then obviously the trains wouldn't really matter because if you're creating a space like that, you're going to have sound isolation, you're going to have soundproofing in order to keep the sound as, the sound quality as great as possible, right?
Absolutely. The architect has been working on that. They do their thing. They'll hire the sound engineers, all mechanicals, that'll be resolved. All the train noise won't be a problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are the only questions I had.
Any other questions?
You're muted. Okay.
I think we're ready to vote.
Sorry, folks, we've had to change my computer. Are there any other questions? Any more discussion?
All for the vote.
Call the roll, please. Ms. Rickles?
Schneider,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Sneed,
No.
Trotter,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
passed 6-1.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 20-06 on a first reading. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020's annual budget of the city of Springfield by amending certain general funds operating budget. We will ask Ms. Rickles to read this, and then we'll ask for a first and second after she's finished.
Ordinance 20-06, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020 annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund operating budgets. Whereas it is necessary to amend the city of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2020 in order to meet the requirements of the city charter. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee, that the City of Springfield annual budget for fiscal year 2020 is hereby amended to make necessary changes to expenditures and revenues within the funds and departments as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the content of conflict only.
Do we have a first?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Thank you. First made by Alderman Gregg and seconded by Alderman Hubbard. We are ready for discussion. Who would like to go first?
Get some explanation from Ms. Holt.
Okay, this is something that we do every year, pretty much what it is. We take
I'm not hearing her.
out-
I can't hear.
Muted, Gina.
She's
I hear you,
muted.
Gina.
No, I mean,
Yes, it's up in the top. Hers is not in the top, it's small screen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. This is something that we do every year. We take funds out of general government expense, $10,000, and we transfer it to the Industrial Development Fund. And if you remember, or maybe you don't, the Industrial Development Fund was set up years ago to, I think, originally buy land for the North Industrial Park. And so that fund is set aside as a separate fund, and we use it each year for primarily mowing the vacant land, filing, paying for some of the annual reports that have to be prepared by the Springfield Industrial Development Board. They advertise their public meetings. So these funds go for that. And like I said, it's primarily, and Lisa could probably explain it better, Ms. Crockett, it's something that we have to do because I think the Industrial Development Fund is a separate fund, and it's required by our auditors that we have to move that fund out of a regular general fund operating account into that fund, if that makes any sense.
So it's not money necessarily that's going to the Industrial Development Board.
No, it is not. It goes to the Industrial Development Fund. The Industrial Development Board has no funding.
The city portion of it.
Yeah, the city's Springfield Industrial Development Board has no funding.
Okay. And I know this is not a great year budget wise, but I think we need to be looking at getting them some funding.
Well, the 21 budget has some if they need it, but
Okay.
it's got like 10,000 or 12,000, I think.
Thank you.
Other questions? No other questions? We're ready for the roll call.
Hubbard,
Hubbard's muted. Mr. Hubbard.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Mead,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Craig,
Ah,
pass 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-07 on a first reading. An ordinance adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Ms. Brickles, will you read this first reading, please?
Ordinance 20-07, an ordinance of the City of Springfield, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021. Whereas Tennessee Code Annotated 9-1-116 requires that all funds of the state of Tennessee and all its political subdivisions shall first be appropriated before being expended, and that only funds that are available shall be appropriated. And whereas the municipal budget law of 1982 requires that the governing body of each municipality adopt and operate under an annual budget ordinance presenting a financial plan with at least the information required by the state statute, that no municipality may expend any monies regardless of the source except in ordinance with a budget ordinance, and that the governing body shall not make any appropriation in excess of estimated available funds, And whereas the Board of Mayor and Aldermen has published the annual operating budget and budgetary comparisons of the proposed budget with the prior year actual and the current year estimated in a newspaper of general circulation not less than 10 days prior to the meeting where the board will consider the final passage of the budget. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. That the governing body projects anticipated revenues from all sources and appropriates planned expenditures for each department, board, office, or other agency of the municipality, herein presented together with the actual annual receipts and expenditures of the last preceding fiscal year and the estimated annual expenditures for the current fiscal year. And from those revenues and unexpected and unencumbered funds as follows for fiscal year 2021, and including the projected ending balances for the budget year, the actual ending balances for the most recent ended fiscal year, and the estimated ending balances for the current fiscal years as set forth in Exhibit A attached. At the end of fiscal year 2020, the governing body estimate fund balances or deficits as set forth in Exhibit A attached. The governing body herein certifies that the condition of its sinking funds, if applicable, are in compliant pursuit to its bond covenants and recognizes that the municipality has outstanding bonded and other indebtedness as set forth in Exhibit A attached. During the coming fiscal year 2021, the governing body has planned capital projects with proposed funding as set forth in Exhibit A attached. It is reasonably expected that the municipality will reimburse itself for certain expenditures made by in connection with the planned capital projects through the issuance of debt. This ordinance shall be placed in the minutes of the governing body and shall be available for inspection by the general public at the office of the governing body. This ordinance constitutes a declaration of official intent under Treasury Regulation Section 1.150-2. No appropriation listed above may be exceeded without an amendment of the budget ordinance as required by the Municipal Budget Law Act of 1982, TCA 6-56-208. In addition, no appropriation may be made in excess of available funds except to provide for an actual emergency threatening the health, property, or lives of the inhabitants of the municipality and declared by a 2/3 vote of at least a quorum of the governing body in accord with Tennessee Code Annotated 6-56-205. Money may be transferred from one appropriation to another in the same fund only by appropriate ordinance by the governing body, subject to such limitations and procedures as set forth by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 6-56-209. Any resulting transfers shall be reported to the governing body at its next regular meeting and entered into the minutes. A detailed financial plan will be attached to this budget and become part of the budget ordinance. In addition, the published operating budget and budgetary comparisons shown by fund with beginning and ending fund balances and the number of full-time equivalent employees required by Tennessee Code Annotated 6-56-206 will be attached. There is hereby levied a property tax of $1.0720 per $100 of assessed value on all real and personal property. This annual operating and capital budget ordinance and supporting documents shall be submitted to the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee for approval if the city has debt issued pursuant to Title IX, Chapter 21 of the Tennessee Code Annotated within 15 days of its adoption. The budget shall not become the official budget for the fiscal year until such budget is approved by the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee in accordance with Title IX, Chapter 21 of the Tennessee Code Annotated, the statute. If the Comptroller or Treasury or Comptroller's designee determines that the budget does not comply with the statutes, the governing body shall adjust its estimates or make additional tax levies sufficient to comply with the statutes or as directed by the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee. If the city does not have such debt outstanding, it will file this annual budget and capital budget ordinance and supporting documents with the Comptroller of the Treasury or Comptroller's designee. If for any reason a budget ordinance is not adopted prior to the beginning of the next fiscal year, the appropriations in this budget ordinance shall become the appropriations for the next fiscal year until the adoption of the new budget ordinance in accordance with Section 6-56-210 Tennessee Code Annotated, provided sufficient revenues are being collected to support the continuing appropriations. Approval of the Comptroller of Treasury or Comptroller's designee for a continuation budget will be requested if any indebtedness is outstanding. All unencumbered balances of appropriations remaining at the end of the fiscal year shall lapse and revert to the respective fund balances. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with any provision of this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect July 1st, 2020, the public welfare requiring it. Hold on, you're muted.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. Do we have a first to discuss?
So move.
Mr. Harris, thank you. Second by Mr. Hubbard. We are ready for discussion. Who would like to go first? Any questions? No questions? Ready for the roll call.
Arnold,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
pass 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you for attending last week's budget workshop. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 20-08 on a first reading. Ordinance rescinding Ordinance 19-11 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield Water Department. Ms. Brickles, I'm so sorry we have so many first readings tonight. Will you please read this?
Ordinance 20-08, an ordinance rescinding Ordinance 19-11 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield water system. Whereas it is become necessary to increase water rates in order to pay for increased costs of operations, maintenance, and debt services for the water system. And whereas Article 4, Section 13 of the Charter of the City of Springfield requires that the fixing of fees and charges be accomplished through legislative action, which must be exercised by ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee, that Ordinance 19-11 is hereby rescinded in its entirety, and a new schedule of rates and charges is hereby adopted as follows. All direct retail customers shall pay a minimum monthly bill. The minimum bill shall include the treatment, transmission, storage, and distribution of the first 2,000 gallons of water per month. The minimum monthly bill for each customer class shall be as follows. Residential city rates, $21.08. County rates, $31.61. Small commercial, which is less than 24,000 gallons a month in the city, is $32.33, and the county is $48.51. Large commercial using greater than 24,000 gallons a month, city rate is $48.61. County rate is $72.09. Industrial customer city rate is $74.33. And industrial county rate is $111.50. All residential customers shall pay a consumption rate of all water usage in excess of the first 2,000 gallons per month. The use rate shall be for each 1,000 gallons and any fractional portion thereof. The use rate for each customer shall be as follows. 2,001 gallons to 5,000 gallons. The city rate is $8.03 per 1,000 gallons. The county rate is $12.05 per 1,000 gallons. 5,001 gallons to 20,000 gallons. The city rate is $6.85 per 1,000 gallons. The county rate is $10.27 per 1,000 gallons. 20,001 gallons to 100,000 gallons is $5.61 per 1,000 gallons in the city and $8.41 per 1,000 gallons in the county. Greater than 100,000 gallons in the city is $4.81 per 1,000 gallons and $7.22 per 1,000 gallons for the county. The charge for treatment, transmission, and storage for wholesale customers shall be as follows. $4.95 per 1,000 gallons. Credit for one water leak for each account shall be allowed in any 12-month period. Credit shall be in the amount of a maximum of 25% reduction in the total bill. Under no circumstances shall the bill be less than an annual average or best estimated annual average as a result of the utilization of the credit. Proof of the leak in the form of a plumber's invoice for repair will be required. All ordinances, resolutions, or policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only. This ordinance shall become effective with billing of July 1st, 2020. You're muted. They mute you because it feeds back. So.
Do we have a first?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. With the first, do we have a second to discuss?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. And I will remind the public that this is an enterprise fund, and enterprise funds all have to balance. And of course, you're all aware that we have done so much repairs and continue to have to correct things with the water system. Discussion and questions, please. Mr. Sneed, I saw your hand first.
Yes, I'm not sure who to direct this question to, maybe
We'll figure it out.
Mr. Beers, but with assuming the current customers use the same amount of water, these new rates would generate how much new revenue on the water?
Mr. Beers.
I'm not really sure, Clay, on talking about the amount you're talking about when you put those rates into there. I mean,
Right, I'm sure that we knew that we needed to cover debt service for the infrastructure improvements and so forth that we've had. I'm not aware of any new vehicles, equipment, or personnel, so it must be going to cover the debt service for their, our new water line and so forth. And so we had to come to some, dollar amount that we needed.
yes, sir.
I guess that was calculated into the cost of the
Ms.
water.
Holt, you're on mute.
Mm-hmm.
So how much new revenue was discussed that we need to come up with this rate?
I'm not really sure if I can give you a good answer. Ms. Holt, do you want to?
She's trying to.
Okay.
Hold
Most of
on.
it was suggested in our water study, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, well, the
hear
MTS rates were set back, my gosh, about 3 years ago as far as the rates that we had.
I think we
Ms. Holt
followed.
is unmuted now.
Okay, yes, Mr. Beers is correct. Of course, this 6% rate increase was recommended by MTS. At the time they did the rate study, they took into consideration all of the projects that we had in order to finish everything. And they also took into consideration depreciation, our debt, and to my knowledge, we have not added anything. So we don't really try to get to a number. We look at the revenue that we have. We looked at where we are year to date. We figured that we will probably not collect everything with the number of people out of work and all the problems with the economy. You'll notice that the revenue and expenses are less than the current budget, I think, on this one. But so we don't try to come to a number. We just take the actual and estimate what it's going to be. And it's to cover everything. And you will remember too, that this year and next year are the two worst for wastewater, but water, we're actually doing okay. We will actually have some money that we'll put in our fund balance. But everything on the rate studies is supposed to be covered.
Thank you.
Well, I understand.
Mr. Sneed?
So what is the amount of money? 6%. I mean, what is the product of 6% times the current revenue from a water? How much money would that raise?
I guess I'm not following you because the revenue we projected is actually, I think, a little bit lower. Let me find out.
I'm just for the viewing public, because this affects a lot of people. I just would like to expound.
On an average residential water bill, it's $2.53 more per month.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hubbard, it's your turn.
I feel with the study that we did 3 years ago, and we sort of put information out to our customers, our citizens, this is coming. So this is a fair process. And if they really look around, they see we put a whole lot of equipment, pipes, and manpower in the ground. So it's not like anything's being wasted, but it's something that is part of the progress to stabilize our water system in the city.
And you'll also remember with the study that we were right in line with all of Middle Tennessee, if I remember correctly.
You're right. You're correct in that statement, ma'am.
Other questions? Any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-09 on a first reading, or ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-12 in its entirety, and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield wastewater system. Ms. Brickles, this is a first reading. Will you please read it?
Ordinance 20-09, an ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-12 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield sewer system. Whereas it has become necessary to increase sewer rates in order to pay for increased costs of operations, maintenance, and debt services for the sewer system. And whereas Article 4, Section 13 of the Charter of the City of Springfield requires that the fixing of fees and charges be accomplished through legislative action and must be exercised by ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee, that Ordinance 19-12 is hereby rescinded in its entirety, and a new schedule of rates and charges is hereby adopted as follows. All direct retail customers shall pay a minimum monthly bill. The minimum bill shall include the treatment and collection of the first 2,000 gallons of discharge per month. The minimum monthly bill for each customer class shall be as follows. Residential in the city is $38.43. County is $57.65. Small commercial, which is less than 24,000 gallons a month, in the city is $59. The county is $88.50. Large commercial greater than 24,000 gallons a month in the city is $98.26. In the county is $147.38. Industrial customers in the city is $392.19. In the county is $588.29. All customers shall pay a use rate based on the volume of wastewater collected for treatment in excess of 2,000 gallons per month. The use rate for each of these 1,000 gallons and any fractional portion thereof, the use rate for each customer shall be as follows. 2,001 gallons to 5,000 gallons in the city is $12.19 per 1,000 gallons and $18.28 per 1,000 gallons in the county. 5,001 to 20,000 gallons in the city is $10.54 per 1,000 gallons and $15.80 per 1,000 gallons in the county. 20,001 to 100,000 gallons in the city is $8.96 per 1,000 gallons and $13.43 per 1,000 gallons in the county. Greater than 100,000 gallons in the city is $7.31 per 1,000 gallons and $10.97 per 1,000 gallons in the county. Credit for filling a swimming pool shall be given one time per year based on the pool's capacity. This credit cannot cause the monthly bill to fall below average usage. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only. This ordinance shall become effective with the billing of July 1st, 2020.
Thank you. Do we have a first?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. On the first, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trotter. Ready for questions, Mr. Sneed?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to the one-time credit, which only covers swimming pools. It was brought to my attention that pressure washing your property was not included. I know that is in some other areas. I think it is in Metro Nashville and Sumner County, I believe. But I know it's not here. And I think that should be added to the swimming pool one-time credit. I don't want to charge people who are trying to maintain their property and keep it clean and get their siding, demossed and, they're not using sewer. So I think to encourage, property maintenance, we shouldn't penalize people. So I'd like to make an amendment to add pressure washing to the swimming pool credit.
Once a year, I assume? Okay. We have an amendment on the floor. Do we have a second on the amendment? I'm not hearing a second. Is there anyone that would like to second? If there's no second, it fails. More discussion, please.
Well, I'm sorry that the rest of the board feels like we want to charge people for using water to pressure wash that's not going into sewer. That's pretty sad.
I don't
Other
necessarily
discussion?
disagree with you, Mr. Sneed, but if we start doing pressure washing, we're going to have to start doing watering flowers, watering yards.
That wasn't
Anything
part
else outside the water.
That wasn't part of the amendment.
Okay, that has
Yeah.
failed. Is there more discussion? Questions? Any more discussion? I hear no more discussion.
Ready to vote.
Call the roll, please.
Sneed,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hubbard, Gregg,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes,
Trotter,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
thank you. 2.6,
Mayor,
discussing, sir.
may I make a comment before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Commend Ms. Holt and all the staff on the budget that they put forward. The water increase, I believe, was 6%, and the sewer increase was 2%. But those percentages have already been in place for the past couple of years. We knew they were going to take place, but in presenting the budget that you've done this year with no property tax increase and all we've been through, and still we have a lot of unknown ahead of us as far as revenue wise, but I think the whole staff has done a good job in putting this year's budget together.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. You're correct. Thank you so much for all the department heads stepping up and taking part with Ms. Holt, Mr. Martin, and Ms. Crockett. We'll move on to 2.6. Discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 20-10 on a first reading. An ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding Ordinance 19-14 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. Ms. Brickles, will you please read the first?
Ordinance 20-10, an ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding Ordinance 19-14 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees attached hereto as Exhibit A. Whereas Article 4, Section 13 of the Charter of the City of Springfield requires that the fixing of fees and charges be accomplished through legislative action, which must be exercised by ordinance, And whereas a schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen through the adoption of Ordinance 19-14. And whereas the Board of Mayor and Aldermen desires to amend the schedule of fees for the Legacy Golf Course at the recommendation of Cornerstone Golf Partners Incorporated. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. The schedule of fees for play at the Legacy Golf Course is hereby amended by rescinding Ordinance 19-14 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. This ordinance and schedule of fees for the Legacy Golf Course as set forth in Exhibit A attached shall become effective immediately upon final passage. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Do I hear a first to discuss?
So move.
Thank you. A first made by Mr. Harris and a second made by Alderman Hubbard.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor Harris.
Who is here from the golf course tonight?
Chet Frazier is here.
Get Chet to explain to the general public exactly what the increase is, what they're going to amount to, so that they'll know.
Thank you for the question, Chet. Are you on with us?
Yes, he is. Chet?
Chet, can you hear us?
Well, I can tell you, it's the same as last year. It's $1 increase on the green fee, and it's $100 on the annual pass, and all of their rates remain the same.
Thank you, Ms. Holt. Other questions?
Currently, Mayor, how's the play?
The play is very good. Had a good weekend.
Okay.
We were on track to have probably a record-setting year, and then the COVID-19 happened, and we closed it for a while. But I think it's in good condition. We're getting a lot of play when the weather's good.
And I know I say this every year, but it's beautiful. It's one of the best golf courses in the state of Tennessee.
I second it.
I was talking with somebody today that just was going on and on about how good the course is and how great condition it's in. And the person even actually said they thought our fees needed to be higher. And I thought I misunderstood and asked them, everybody say we needed to charge more, but they did say that, but they were giving a lot of praise to the staff at the golf course and how well they're keeping the course looking.
Well, and our staff at the golf course has done a wonderful job during this virus. So I commend them. Chet, I know you're on now. No, Chet's not with us. Any other discussion or questions?
Comment.
Yes.
Back in the older days when it was first created, I was against it, but Raymond Floyd said one day this is going to be the best golf course in the state of Tennessee, and
we've reached it.
Second in most.
We have reached it. We broke a lot of clubs and had a lot of rocks coming out of the ground, if you remember, when we first started playing out there. So it's looking good.
Do we keep records as to knowing how many residents and non-residents play that course? Do we have any?
I don't know if they're able to do that or not.
I was just curious if they ever did that. I didn't know if that was tracked or not.
That's something that we can check into. Chet, we can see you. Shake your head yes if we can. Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Okay.
Other comments? Call the roll, please. Hubbard?
Hubbard?
Yes.
Yes.
Sneed?
Aye.
Harris?
Yes.
Trotter?
Aye.
Schneider?
Aye.
Arnold?
Yes.
Gregg?
Ah.
Pass 7-0.
2.7, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-11 on a first reading. Ordinance amending the fees for the Springfield Community Development Department by rescinding Ordinance 88-09 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. Ms. Brickles, will you please read this?
Ordinance 20-11, an ordinance to establish and create fees to be paid by any person or entity other than a governmental agency upon submission by that person or entity of, including but not limited to, plats, site plans, and other applications to the Springfield Community Development Department for consideration, review, and approval or disapproval by the Planning Commission, Community Development Department, and/or the City of Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen, by rescinding Ordinance 88-09 in its entirety and establishing fees as set forth in Exhibit A attached. Whereas the Charter of the City of Springfield, Tennessee requires legislative action by ordinance to establish fees. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Ordinance 88-09 is hereby rescinded in its entirety and replaced by Ordinance 20-11, which establishes an updated fee schedule as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Do I hear a first to discuss?
So move.
So moved.
A first made by Vice Mayor Harris and a second by Mr. Hubbard. Discussion, please. No discussion? Call the roll, please.
Arnold,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.8, discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 20-12 on a first reading. Ordinance amending the City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 11-1305A, 11-1306B, 11-1307C, and Chapter 14, Section 1403.4G, 1 and 2. Ms. Brickles?
Ordinance 20-12, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 13, Sections 11-1305A, 11-1306B, 11-1307C, and Chapter 14, Section 1403.4G, 1 and 2 to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. TCA sections 13-7-201 through 13-7-210 delegate the responsibility to local governmental units to adopt regulations designed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of its citizenry. And now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. The City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 13, entitled Administration and Enforcement, is hereby amended by rescinding the existing sections 11-1305A, 11-1306B, 11-1307C, and replacing with new sections 11-1305A, 11-1306B, and 11-1307C to read as set forth as Exhibit A attached. The City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 14, entitled Grading and Erosion Requirements, is hereby amended by rescinding the existing section 1403.4G, 1 and 2 to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. Thank you for all those first readings tonight. Do we have a first to discuss?
So move.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Harris, and a second made by Alderman Hubbard. Questions, please. No discussion? If there's no discussion, call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.9, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-16, a resolution declaring property surplus and authorizing the disposal of such properties. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move. Second.
A first by Mr. Trotter and a second by Mr. Hubbard. Questions? This is our regular resolution to declare this surplus that we do every month. No questions or discussion. Call the roll, please.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.10, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-17, a resolution accepting the subdivision bond for Reyes Construction LLC in the amount of $245,000 in order to guarantee the completion of streets, drainage, and electrical improvements in the Village Green of Springfield, Section 4. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move. Second.
Thank you. The first was made by Alderman Hubbard and second by Alderman Trotter. Do you have any questions?
I think this gentleman is doing a great job. He's improving a lot of sections, especially in my particular ward.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Call the roll, please.
Harris,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. 2.11, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-18, an initial resolution authorizing the issue of not to exceed 1.8 million in aggressive principal amount of the general obligation public improvement bonds of the city of Springfield, Tennessee. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
And a second. The
Second.
first was made by Alderman Trotter and a second by Alderman Harris. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Bragg,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Trotter,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. 2.12, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-19, a resolution authorizing and providing for the finance of the construction of a wastewater facility project, including authorizing the execution of application, contractual agreement, and other necessary documents, and making certain representations, certificates, and pledges of certain revenues in connection with such financing. Do we have a motion to discuss?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Snead.
Yes, I guess this will be a question for Mr. Beers, for the viewers who have copy of the agenda, but it doesn't specify what are we building, and it's, how much do you expect this to cost?
Mr. Beers.
Mr. Sneed?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're asking me.
Well, the viewing public who sees the agenda, it says wastewater facilities. We're building a new plant. Are we just going to build add on? And it does not have a specified amount or estimated amount. What are we authorizing? It's a blank check. We're being asked to authorize a blank check and pay the bill later. What are we doing here?
I can answer those questions.
Yes.
The way the resolution is written is the way the state revolving fund requires it. It's 6.2 million for wastewater. It's for the I&I abatement for phase 2C. The interest rate is 0.78%. 0.78%. So we're pretty fortunate there, but it's 6.2 million for phase 2C, which we have to finish within the fiscal year.
So it's just upgrades to the current facility.
Right, it's I&I abatement. It's the last phase, or well, one of the last phases of our EPA administrative order on consent.
Understand. No further questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed. Other questions? Other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Bragg,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.13, discuss and possible take action on resolution 20-20, a resolution accepting the streets and the right-of-way improvements in phase 3, section 7 of the Oakland Farm subdivision, Daniel Bernstein as owner, and accept a maintenance bond for the said streets and the infrastructure in the right-of-way and the easements of the said subdivision. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
Thank you. The first was made by Vice Mayor Harris, and the second was made by, was that Mr. Gregg? Mr. Trotter. Thank you. Discussion, please. No discussions or questions? Call the roll, please.
Arnold,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. 2.14, discuss and possible take action on resolution 20-21, a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $4,190,000 in aggregate principal amount of the general obligation refunding and the public improvement bonds of the city of Springfield, Tennessee, making provisions for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the deposition of the proceeds therefrom, and providing the levy of taxes for the payments of the debt service of the bonds. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
First made by Alderman Trotter. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. Questions?
Can I say something?
Yes, Ms. Holt, and then we'll go to Mr. Sneed.
Ashley McAnulty from Stevens is on with us in case you have any questions. But this 4.19 million that we were borrowing includes the 1.8 million that you just approved in 2.11. And the 1.8 million is for our current budget, the FY20, what we're borrowing. And the rest of that is a refunding from a bond issued in 2010 And by issuing this together, we will be saving about $156,000. $156,000 over the term. We're not adding to the term. It'll be 7 more years. And we're able to save $156,000. So if you have any technical questions, Ashley will be happy to answer those.
Questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sneed. Alderman Sneed, go right ahead.
Ms. Holt answered that question on this additional debt. So we're adding, we're borrowing 1.8 million in additional dollars to what we expect to receive in revenue. Ms. Holt, was that taken into effect? Was this amount taken into effect, assuming what we project the shortfalls to be with all the businesses closed, or should we expect, somewhere down the line, we'll need additional funding to balance this year's budget?
Well, what we did is we planned in this current year's budget to borrow funds. We're not going to borrow all that we budgeted, but just so that you know, in the general fund, we are projecting that let's see, our reductions are about $781,000, actually $782,000 in general fund reductions, and then each utility reductions as well. But this is borrowing for projects and for refunding. So it really doesn't take into consideration those considerations or the reductions, as long as we're able to pay the debt. I don't know.
Okay. It does, Ms. Holt, but with the reduction in revenue, we've got a pretty good rainy day amount of money. And we're using some of that this year to balance out, but we borrowed this additional. With the slowing of the economy, or is the city doing anything to reduce cost, or is the city going to just continue with same estimated cost as last year? Because we know we're not going to have the same revenue this year, so we're just going to borrow our way out of it.
No, we are absolutely not borrowing our way out of it. We made significant reductions in the current budget because of the expectation that we will not be getting the revenue. So we reduced our revenue, we reduced our expenditures. And then in the new budget that we're proposing that you passed on first reading, we have reductions. So the revenue in most of them is less, the expenditures are less. So we definitely have prepared for the economy that is in a downturn and all of the uncertainties. And in my letter and the budget work session that we had last week, we talked about the possibility that in either the second or third quarter, at some point in the new fiscal year, we will probably be back here making further budget cuts, because we flat out are not going to borrow our way out of anything, because I do not like to borrow and I don't like to use reserve funds. And so we're going to have to. That's why we built our fund balances up. But no, this bond issuance here is perfectly in line, and we can afford it.
Okay, that answers the question. I knew we were in pretty good shape, but I just wanted to make the viewing audience aware of those things. That was quite satisfactory.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hubbard. Alderman Hubbard.
Again, we need to thank you, Ms. Holt, for your wise counsel, your wise approach to keeping us afloat and keeping us with good reserves. So I thank you and your team for such matters.
Thank you. A team effort for sure.
Other discussion? No other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. Moving on to our administrative. session. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the retail electric rates of the Springfield Electric Department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Do we hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
Do
Second,
I hear it? Our motion was made by Vice Mayor Harris and seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Mr. Gardner.
Mayor, we have a 6.3% increase this month in our fuel costs.
Okay. Well, that's not what we want to hear, but I think you have one more meeting to correct yourself
I'll do
before
my
your
best.
retirement. We will expect nothing less out of you next time. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad I installed my solar panels before the credits and the availability. I'm not going to be paying electric bill here pretty soon.
Okay. Other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Need,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Hubbard,
aye.
Bragg,
Arnold,
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Trotter,
aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
I'll be second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris and seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Mr. Riddle.
Yes, Mayor, the purchase gas adjustment's down 17.51% this month.
Thank you. You did better than Mr. Gardner. We're still in a race between the two of you for one more month. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Harris,
Yes.
Harris, Schneider,
Aye.
Hubbard, Trotter,
Aye.
Need,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.3, discuss and possible take action to approve the offers on the surplus property acquired via the delinquent tax sales. Do we hear a motion to discuss?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hubbard had the first and our second by Alderman Trotter. Any questions? Discussion.
Since this is in my ward,
Yes, sir.
I like to see it sold and I like to see something developed there.
Mayor, does
Yes, sir.
Mr. Martin have any type of report or any type of figures of how many properties we have remaining?
Yeah, Mr. Harris, we do have about, and I don't know the exact number, but about 10 left. We've sold about 30 of those properties, and most of those have closed already. We have a few outstanding that we'll be closing on hopefully within the next month or so. But it's been a pretty successful process since the board passed the policy back in 2018. And so I think we're down to about 10 properties or less right now. Of course, that's pending the next tax sale. When the next tax sale happens, then we'll have more properties to dispose of. But so far, it's been productive.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that hard work too. Other questions? No other questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Bragg,
Aye.
Need,
Aye.
Trotter,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. 3.4, discuss and possible take action to approve the selection of BC3 as the city's provider for its IT support service. Do we hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
A second. Our first was made by Vice Mayor Harris and our second was made by Alderman Trotter. Discussion?
Mayor, is this maybe for Ms. Crockett? I'm not sure. Is this a new company that we're going with? Or Gina may know.
It's not a new company. It's a company that we've had a contract with for a while, and Mr. Martin can answer most of the details about the contract. But we started with them several years ago, and we were paying, I think it was $15,000 per month. We did not have an IT department really. We had sort of one person that was doing a lot of this, which he couldn't. So we entered into the contract, I guess, in 2016. And then after a certain period of time, we realized we didn't need all the services we were paying for. So then the contract went down to $9,000, or let's see, $87.47 per month. And so we just keep refining it. And now this one is down to what, $58.75 per month. Yeah, so it's gone from 15 to 9,100 down to 5,800.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? No other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Bragg,
Aye.
passed 7-0.
Thank you. 3.5, discuss and possible take action to approve the participation agreement for the TVA Home Uplift Program. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
A first made by Alderman Trotter and a second made by, I believe it was Mr. Hubbard, correct?
Correct.
Discussion.
Mr. Gardner. Mr.
Yes,
Gardner,
sir, Mr. Hubbard.
you enlighten us on that?
Yes, sir. This is a program that was first offered to what TVA calls their big five, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis. And it was extremely popular, well received. Of course, many of those communities have a lot of residents well below the poverty income level. And so the smaller distributors, I think we were actually the first press TVA to offer this valley-wide to some of the small ones. So they came up with a pilot, and they decided to allow distributors to participate and to offer 2% of revenue. Now, this came up close to a year ago when they started this program. What's taken so long is that they've finally got the TVA legal department to approve the use of revenue for this program. And so distributors can use non-electric revenue to match their funds, the TVA funds, or they can use private revenue from like a 501c3. It's a real good program. I think it's going to be well received in the city. We've got a lot of homes that are very energy inefficient that really need some upgrades. And a lot of times these homes are owner occupied, but the owners can't afford to make any improvements. So we expect this to go very well and probably have several applications.
Mr. Gardner, this come through your department, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, have it been put out to the community?
Not yet. It will be if you guys approve this.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have one quick question.
Mr. Arnold?
How do we get the word out to the community? What's the process to make sure that everyone who would be eligible would receive notice of this?
Well, I would expect we have a energy service advisor at our department that does our communication for us, but also it probably, I would think, would go out centrally through the city's PR person, Candace. So we got very, social media, as you know, is the way to go today to get this really advertised quickly. So, we can get it out. And I think what we got to caution about is getting it out too quickly and too fast to where the available funds are used up very, very quick, because you're talking about $8,000, up to $8,000 in energy upgrades. And there's only, I'm looking down here, so many funds available. So, okay, about 110,000 funds available. So you can see that could go pretty fast.
Thank you. Other questions? Alderman Sneed.
Yes, this question for Mr. Gardner. Mr. Gardner, how much will this cost the city to participate in this program?
The funds will come from the electric department, and our match will be $55,329.
Will this require new personnel or existing?
Existing personnel.
Okay, so we're going to spend up to 55,000. TVA is going to match that.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I'm glad we can help the people on their electric bill, but not their sewer bill to clean their house. That's all the questions, Mayor.
Okay. Other questions? Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Arnold,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Hubbard, Sneed,
Aye.
pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.6, discuss and possible take action to award the bid for the stormwater culvert replacing under CSX Railroad on Memorial Boulevard in the amount of $1,370,329 to Garney Companies, Inc. of Nashville, Tennessee. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
First made by Alderman Hubbard, second by Alderman Trotter. Discussion.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Sneed, and then I'll go to Mr. Hubbard.
Yes, I knew from dealing with this in the past, we looked at the possibility of that this was not our responsibility, that we should pursue the railroad to fix this. The tunnel's under their property. They built it when the railroad was built. Why did we not pursue a lawsuit to the railroad?
Ms. Holt?
Well, I think all of that was discussed early on when this problem first occurred. And I think that because it was looked at, for one thing, right, CSX denied any liability whatsoever. And we thought, okay, it is our stormwater system. And also because of TDOT having a part in it too, we thought, and we tried to get a partnership to get everybody to jump in. So we don't go with a lawsuit as first resort. We do that as last resort. And so that's why we're here. It's been a couple of years. We're still trying. And this contract, what the bids were opened, I think in December, and the contractor has agreed to postpone it this long and still accept the bid. And they are considerably lower than the others. So that's why we're finally ready to move on.
Okay. Mr. Sneed, did you have another question?
No.
Thank you, Alderman Sneed. Other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Hubbard?
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry redundant to what Ms. Hope said, because we have definitely been trying, okay? And I think it's about 2007 or 8, we had a situation like this. So the other parties were dragging their feet, but I'm glad we're finally here.
Okay. Other discussion?
Do we expect any financial assistance, Gina, from them?
We were encouraged a little bit to think that CSX, I think, might give us a little. They haven't committed, and maybe Mr. Clayton Moore can address that a little more, no pun intended.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, you're correct on what you're saying, that they had stipulations. Well, the original idea by the city was to try to get all parties to have equal contributions of a third. And because TDOT just flat said no way, the the railroad is, we're waiting to hear a better answer on that. They haven't decommitted, but they haven't committed. And we are currently still in talks with CSX on this.
Thank you. Other questions? Other questions before I ask for the roll call? Call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Need,
Abstain. I work for CSX.
Gregg, Harris.
Yes.
Pass 6-0 to 1. Alderman Sneed abstain.
Thank you. 3.7, discuss and possible take action to extend the contract with Green Village Recycling for recycling collections and marketing service for additional 12 months at the current rate of $11 per month through the period ending June 30th, 2021. Do we have a motion to discuss?
So move.
And a
Second.
second. A first by Vice Mayor Harris and a second by Alderman Hubbard. Questions? No questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.8, discuss and possible take action to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $1,029.69 to the Cumberland Valley Contractors, Inc. contract for the Cars Creek and Supper Fork Creek wastewater storage facility. The new contract amount will be $15,011,029.69. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So move. So move. I'll take the second.
Okay. Mr. Trotter made the first, the second by Mr. Hubbard. Questions? Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Harris,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Gregg, Arnold,
Yes.
pass 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to our consent doc. 4.1, Community Development Department request to award the bid for mowing in the amount of $50 for the first half acre and $35 for all remaining half acre increments to Grass Busters Lawn of Greenbrier, Tennessee. The budget is $12,000. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
This is to get all the vacant lots mowed down.
Yes,
I guess
Our
I'm
sec-
asking the question.
yes,
Okay.
Was our second made by Alderman Gregg?
Hubbard, I think.
Alderman Hubbard
Yes, ma'am.
made the second. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. We're having a little difficulty. We want to make sure we get this right this time. On our second month, we're making sure that we know who the first and second are and don't have to go back and listen. Thank you. Other questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Gregg,
Ah.
Sneed,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Harris has, would you like to speak? I was going to make your announcement.
Just to acknowledge from our board in the
Please.
death of Mr. Marvin Smith Jr. passed away last evening. Mr. Smith was a longtime business operator in the city of Springfield, and also he was the city appointee for almost 30 years, just short of 30 years on the Airport Authority Board. He was a naval pilot and served our city well by serving on the airport board, and we appreciate his service and extend our condolences to his family.
Thank you for letting us know, Vice Mayor Harris. Mr. Smith has been so great for our community, not only for Springfield, but for Robertson County. And we send our condolences to his family, and we thank him for his many years of service and loving this community. Turn it over now to our city manager, Miss Gina Holt.
Okay, I don't have much. I just wanted to remind everyone that the census is still going on. And as of today, when I looked, the total for the state, 59.6% of the people have responded. For Robertson County, 64%. And Robertson County is ranked number 13 in the state, so that's pretty good right now. The bad news is, or the not as good news is, Springfield is 54.6%. So we are number 210 out of 395 cities, I guess. So we need to get the word out and promote the census even more. So we're at 54.6. We have 8 census tracts, and it varies from the response rate from 47.3% in some of those tracts up to 72.6%. So again, we really do need to push that, because that's money we're losing if people do not fill out the census. And the only other thing I wanted to remind people, or some people may not have heard, we have a new text alert system where we can push out messages. And all people have to do is go to, is text join Springfield. So join Springfield to 30890. So if you text to 30890 and type in join Springfield, you will automatically be signed up. And it's really easy to do, because even I can do that. So please help get that message out as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And I want to continue to give kudos to all of you, the department heads, the whole team, Ms. Holt, Mr. Martin, and Ms. Crockett, for everything you've done. I know this has been a tough year. We may have to come back and adjust the budget, but it has, y'all have done an amazing job. And thank you for opening City Hall back up. Mr. Hubbard and Mr. Trotter both want to speak.
I just want to go ahead, Alderman.
Mr.
Go
Hubbard.
ahead. I'll give you. Okay, I would just like to say that one of the treasures of the city government is the Greenway, and I would just like to appeal to the citizens: please read the signs, continue the social distancing, and please wear a mask. Thank you.
Alderman Trotter.
Alderman Sneed, I had one of your constituents contacted me and wanted to speak with you in reference to some property adjoining Westside High Elementary School. Could you give me a call or give me a number, I can call you, please?
Sure, yes.
We'll pass that on to you. Mr. Harris.
Also, Mayor, I think our board needs to send our thoughts and prayers to the residents and staff and families at Springfield Heights.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding us.
Be in prayer for them. We've had a lot of great people in our city and our county working with this COVID virus, and those that are doing the testing. Our nursing homes have done a great job. Hospital has done a great job, but it is something that happens. And so we do want to remember all those folks there and wish them all a very quick recovery.
Thank you. A lot of us have family members out there, and we are praying for everyone and the employees at Springfield Heights. We will finish up with our city manager, Ms. Gina Holt.
I forgot one thing. We need to set a special meeting for the third reading of the budget.
I thought we did.
No, I don't think so. Our second reading and the public hearing will be at the regular meeting on June 16th. And we need to set the third reading on another night after that. And what we have done in the past is we have done it at noon, but it's up to you all when, but it needs to be after the 16th of June.
Could you meet at lunch on the 18th?
Last year, Ms. Crockett asked for a week in between. Does she need that
Oh,
again
that's right.
this year, Gina? I mean, can we do the 25th? Is that a problem?
Yes, sir.
That is a problem? Okay.
Well, we could, are you going to Texas?
Lisa, do you need the time to put the budget amendments together?
Oh, she needs that time?
She probably doesn't if we don't have any, but.
Exactly.
So therefore we could meet the 18th or the 19th at lunchtime?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Ms. Crockett, is that okay with you?
If if you're not planning on having a lot of amendments on the 16th, then yes, the 18th would be fine.
Okay. I think we're not going to.
I would say the
24th.
18th.
That would be fine then.
We'll go around the room and make sure, or go around the computer and make sure that we're all okay for the 18th. Ms. Arnold, I will start with you.
That works for me.
Okay. We're usually not here very long.
And what time did you say?
Noon. Mr. Trotter.
What day is it on? Thursday?
Yes, sir.
That'd be fine.
Mr. Sneed.
That's fine.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Gregg.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Thank you. We're all in agreement that we'll meet that day at noon. That's usually a very quick meeting.
And try not to give Ms. Crockett a stroke on the 16th.
I truly believe with our circumstances, we probably will not be having a lot of changes. Any other discussion? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. I hope we'll be able to meet in person in June.